totalitarianism, capitalism, and racism. The three-headed monster, however, has in some way reared up its ugly head again. The heads are the isms, and I want to say that today, unfortunately, we must add another ism, and that is terrorism. Our country is burdened down by the isms: sexism, capitalism, classism, the misogynistic attacks on feminism and womenism, and on and on and on. Calvary Black History Month, however, gives us and affords us an opportunity to be a voice for the voiceless, hope for the hopeless, help for the helpless, to help those who are oppressed, suppressed, repressed, depressed. The ill treatment of the ban placed upon immigrants and upon one fell swoop suspecting every Muslim reminds me of the tricky blows that we received as a race during our struggles, the ambiguous emancipation, the failed Reconstruction, the pitiful post-Reconstruction, the jaded Jim Crow era, the twang and the segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. You do know where that came from, Governor Wallace. After the 1965 Civil Rights Act, our words and our wounds were still very vicious and open. We had dog bites that were not yet healed. We had skin still awash by the high-powered water hoses. We were still psychologically seared by the back of the bus syndrome, separate fountains, separate counters, separate bathrooms, separate everything. Our conscience was still seared, even though we were said to be free. Brothers and sisters, even now through modernity and post-modernity and an exciting new millennial era filled with technological advancements, medical phenomena, artistical expression, the wonderful network of social media and the craze thereof, Black America must still address some unsettled issues. Issues that continue to plague our society, our ethos, and our culture. We have some serious issues, Black America. We have issues as a nation and as a people. That's where we see Black Lives Matter rising up and getting under the skin of political pundits. They cannot stand to see Black people together. And in their estimation, Black lives do not matter. And I know that it matters because the more they show up, the more they protest, the more it bothers them. They want us to go away. They want us to hide our hands, hide our hearts, and hide our hearts. They want us to go back and be quiet and sit in a corner somewhere and not make noise. The policing culture is a problem in our society. Driving while Black. Having a busted headlight and not making it home. The police culture, these persons who are supposed to be sworn to protect our communities, they have shaky hands but a steady. They're scared when they walk up to the car, often for no reason at all. We just want to know why we're being harassed. We just want to know why we've been pulled over. We just want to know why the first instinct you have is to kill us. Where our white counterparts get tased, we get killed. Another problem that we're wrestling with is mass incarceration. Calvary hears me preach about this all the time. 2 million souls behind bars. Over 80% of those souls behind bars are Black and brown, persons that look just like you and me. What Michelle Alexander calls in her epic book, The New Jim Crow, is the mass incarceration that you and I are faced with today. In fact, our brothers and sisters are in jail for low-level crimes that if they had a different color hue, they would have been given PTI or a slap on the wrist. But they're incarcerated now for years and years, and this is a tragic reality in Black America. Gang violence, we must talk about it in Chirac or Iraq or in Chicago. And even right here in Trenton, there's too much gun violence. There's too many people that say they will not say what they saw. If you go to a train station or an airport, the slogan is see something, say something. But in the black community, if you say something, that may mean your very life. What do we do when you see something but won't say something? It's all fun and games until it comes to your front door. It's all good until it comes to our homes. The problem is the nihilistic nothingness that exists in the hearts and minds of our young black men. They don't expect to live beyond 25 by and large because they feel, as John Paul Sartre said, a nothingness, that my life means nothing. And so I have a nihilistic tendency to get you before you get me, but I don't expect to be here long either. We must do something about the nihilism and the nothingness that exists in our community. And then I have to come to the black church. I have to indict the black church because many times we, the black church, are not trained to deal with issues in the black community such as HIV. We're not trained to deal with divorce. We're not trained to deal with sex, love, and phobias and xenophobic prejudices that people have right within the church. We're not trained to deal with it. And so since we're not trained to deal with it, we act like it's not there. But many of our people who suffer with these things, depression and suicidal tendencies and sex confusion and HIV and love and all of the other things, the church is not designed or trained to deal with. And so our members sit and suffer in silence. We see through a glass darkly. We see through a xenophobic lens. We gossip and we say we love God. We laugh, but we won't love too much. We whisper, but we won't pray. We touch, but we don't feel. We have some issues in black America. First of all, there is the diasporic dilemma. The diasporic dilemma, you know, it means that 42 countries received Africans dispersed from West Africa. And we were taken to various parts of this world for enslavement. The Greek word for diaspora means dispersion or scattered. They scattered us abroad and we lost our identity. And we lost our identity for all of those centuries. And then when we finally were emancipated, we still didn't know who we were. We got confused in the haze and we began to judge one another. We began to look at each other's hue and we began to look at the color scheme and we began to judge one another that you're too light, you're too dark, you're too blue, you're too black, you're purple black. And we began to have a prejudice inside of the black community that was more desperate and in some ways more devastated than the white backlash and supremacy that we received as black people. We've got to come together. There are problematic areas within the diasporic dilemma. Africans that are here today don't seem to understand us, and we don't seem to understand them. We seem to look at them funny, and they seem to look at us funny. And there is a diasporic dilemma that is developing in America that I'm telling you we got to get a handle on, because we are all one. Though we don't see it, we have this phrenological sense of one another. We look at their body shapes, we look at their heads, we look at their lips, we look at their color skin, and somehow think that we are superior to them. They look at us and think that we are some hybridity, some mulatto, that we are somehow mixed with Jeffersonian blood. And so they don't respect us fully. So what must we do? We must come together and begin to dismantle this diasporic dilemma. There's another thing that is troubling to me, and that is the miseducation of the Negro. Carter G. Woodson in 1933 wrote that wonderful work, The Miseducation of the Negro. And he talked about the fact that when you can tell a man what to think, you don't even have to tell him to go to the back door. He'll already be at the back door waiting for you. The miseducation of the Negro means that our European colonizers told us how to think. They told us how to worship. They told us how to act, they told us how to talk, and they said that everything Africa is ugly. Everything black is ugly. The way you worship is suspect. The way you look is suspect. And so we learned from our European colonizers. What happened was between 1865 and 1965, we call it the 100-Year War. And that was when we, the freedmen, as they call it, the Freedmen's Bureau, we weren't educated. We couldn't read, we couldn't write, we couldn't do arithmetic. And so what the northern missionaries did, they came into the South and they taught us. They said, well, we need to teach them how to write, we need to teach them how to read, we need to teach them some arithmetic. But they also got into teaching us how to worship and how to interpret the Bible and how to read the Bible and how to preach the Bible, how to live according to European ways. But we have to understand that the way we worship today is a European colonized way of worship. The way we see music, the way we see our hymns, the way we preach was all taught by our European colonizers. Let me give you some history. Now, in West Africa, we learned how to speak, and you learned how to speak from West African linguistics. They didn't speak with any tenses. There was no nominative case. There was no diphthongs. There was no consequential clusters. There was no fricatones, as they call it. Now let me break this down. No tenses. Verbs are always we going, we be going. No tenses. The nominative case, there is none in African language. It's I am that I am. It's I. The verb is omitted. And it's always in the present tense. I be going. Where your mama? She be going to church. The Europeans taught that was ignorant. No diphthongs in African language. One vowel means two sounds in the European context. But one vowel in Africa means what it is. A, I, E, O, U. That's how their language is sounded out. There are no vowels that give two tenses or two sounds. No consequential clusters, no K's, no sk. That's why the European colonizer taught you how to pronounce properly ask. We don't be trying to do that, do we? Ask. Or say something, the NG. Many of us say something, something. I'm going to give you a little something, something. I'm going to break you off a little something, something. There's no diphthongs. We don't, the clusters. We don't say that. Loofah. Loofah. Sing loofah. And European taught that we're ignorant because we don't have diphthongs, because we don't use fricatones, because we have no consonantal clusters, because we don't have that kind of stuff. They taught that we were stupid. But different is not deficient. That's just the way they came here understanding and learning and had a code language all to themselves, which was handed down from the lingua franca from them, and that's how we got it today. And so we be cool when we can talk about that because we understand each other and we know that we're bright and we know that we're intelligent and we know that we're smart and we don't have to speak the king's English to the queen's taste. We can get it like this and talk among each other and don't downplay one another because we got it and we know we got it. And can't nobody tell us that we don't have it. We can speak that high intelligence mumbo jumbo if we wanted to, but we know that's just not us. And so we've learned to be ourselves. How about in the music? We are taught that our music is suspect, that we shouldn't gyrate, we should. Let me tell you. Okay, blacks clap on the beat of 2 and 4. Right. Blessed assurance. Come on, y'all. Jesus is mine. We clap on the 2 and 4. The Europeans taught that no, you should clap on the 1 and 3. Blessed assurance, Jesus. That's why they have no rhythm. You watch one of them long when they're singing one of our songs. And anybody see Donald Trump when he went to the black church and he was just, my boy was just, hey, I said, there's that 1 and 3, there's that European. And they was trying to help him. No, brother, it's the double clap. It's the double 2 and 4, brother, 2 and 4. You're in the black church. But the Europeans taught that it's the 1 and 3, not the 2 and 4. But we get it when we have church. You understand that? Europeans also taught that our dancing was suspect. That because we knew how to move, Mother Mason, that we were somehow possessed with a demon, that we were too erotic in our worship. There should be no movement. The preacher should preach like this. Nobody should talk back to him. There should be no call and response. They say, why are you talking back to the preacher? Why are y'all waving your hands at him? Why are y'all saying things when he's talking? That's rude. No, that's how we learn to worship, Janet. But in the European model, they want you to be quiet. They want you to be frigid. They want you to just nod your head when you agree. But how many know that you can't do that when the Lord has done so much for you? He picked you up and turned you around. He placed your feet. Turn to somebody and say, not when I've been healed of cancer. You expect me to be quiet? Not when I come back from a heart attack. Not when I should have lost my mind up in here. I should have you want me to be quiet? When I think on the goodness of Jesus and all that he's done for my soul.
Yes.
European taught us that something was wrong with us moving, Carol, dancing and moving around. Arthur Miller. I taught the church this a couple of weeks ago. Arthur Miller, you know the ones who taught you how to dance, the waltz and the cha-cha? You remember the sheet with the black feet and the white feet? And if you learn how to step on the black feet and the white, you'll learn how to dance. You'll learn how to do da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, or the cha-cha. You ever see the white bands at the football games at halftime?
Oh my gosh.
Anybody ever see Gremlin at halftime? They be getting it. Because they say, listen, God gave me the ability to move and groove, and when I feel the beat down in my soul, something on the inside takes over from the outside. Oh, what joy floods my soul. Winnie, I'm almost through. I got a few more things.
Take your time, girl.
John Newton, the slave owner who wrote Amazing Grace. He was a slave owner. But one night on the choppy seas, a storm arose and his boat almost capsized. We believe he had slaves in the belly. After the storm almost destroyed him, his cargo, and all souls aboard, they say the cargo shifted and stopped the hole that was in the hull. Saved his life and those whom he piloted and captained. His conversion happened on that night, and he wrote this song, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, saved a wretch like me. But we believe that the Africans helped him write Amazing Grace. You see, if Newton would have wrote Amazing Grace, it would have been grace, but without the blacks, it wouldn't have been amazing. I believe that they put it to, no, baby, you got to sing it this way. And they began to sing it in a common meter way.
All right.
Because if they would have left it in the Newton way, it wouldn't have sounded like we get it. Somebody turn to your neighbor and say, Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace.
How sweet the sound.
How sweet the sound.
That saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but thank God now I see. I'll tell you this, and I'm moving to the text and I'm done. Janice Hale from Brigham Young University says that by the age of 3, children's speech patterns are learned. By the age of 3, that's it. What they don't get in that time span will not be got. But she did a study. She's white, by the way. She did a study from Brigham Young, and she said that black communities allowed our kids to be labeled. Well, he has ADD. He has this. He has that. He has this. Hale said, no. The problem is, she said that's the European concept. Because from the time that they're babies to the time they go to grad school, they learn from a European paradigm. You know, when you lay a child on its back and the blocks are above and the blocks are, that's a European style. Because European babies learn from a right side object-oriented mentality. But it's noted that black children learn from a left side subject-oriented matter. So the object-oriented on the right side, the European model, and the left side subject learning doesn't make us deficient, it makes us different. But it doesn't mean that we're slower than the white kids. And what happened after segregation was lifted out of the schools in 1954, white teachers were overwhelmed because they noticed that the black children were all in their space and they couldn't understand it. Stand back, I'll teach you, get off of me. And they didn't understand, why are the black children all over me? It's because they're left side subject oriented. You've got to give oral and touch to black children. You can't just teach them an object. We're not deficient. We may be different in how we learn, but I'm trying to tell you the European model says that from the cradle to the grave, we are deficient. No, we just learn from an opposite side of our brain apex, which is just as powerful as the European model. And so I want to tell you, Ethiopia will stretch out her hand real soon to Africa and to the Lord. I want to tell you, my brothers and sisters, if you look at the text when you go home, it says that princes will come out of Egypt, and Ethiopia will soon stretch out her hands unto God. We have princes inside of us. We have queens inside of us. We have kings inside of us. And I like what your son just did, having us call out our heroes and our sheroes, because you've got to understand who you are, not who they told you are. You've got to understand that different doesn't mean deficient. And whatever color you find yourself in the glide of this spectrum of blackness, you ought to know that God has blessed you. God has dipped you in his love. God has brought you up a king and a prince and a queen and a princesses. And you ought to be glad for your Nubian culture. You ought to be glad for who you are. Let me go down the list and say thank you, Nat Turner, for your defiance and your resolve. You said that before you be a slave, you'll be buried in your grave. Thank you, Frederick Douglass, who, by the way, is deceased. But thank you, Frederick Douglass, for being the man that you are. Thank you, Sojourner Truth, for your wonderful way of liberating so many of us. Thank you, Harriet Tubman, for your Underground Railroad. Thank you, Fannie Lou Hamer, for boldly disrupting the 1964 Democratic National Committee. Thank you for doing that. Thank you, W.E.B. Du Bois, for helping us understand souls of black folk. Thank you, Carter G. Woodson, for helping us with the miseducation of the Negro. Thank you, James Baldwin, going to meet the man. Thank you, Ralph Waldo Emerson, for your invisible man. Thank you, Langston Hughes, for being such a great giant. Thank you, Maya Angelou, for how you blessed us with your gift. Thank you, Zora Neale Hurston. Your eyes are still watching God. Thank you, Toni Morrison. You still have the bluest eye Thank you, Rosa Parks, for not giving up your doggone seat. Thank you, Martin Luther King, that you still have a dream. Thank you, Barack and Michelle Obama, for being the first president, black president of the United States. We gonna miss you. We wish you were back. God bless you, Calvary and the churches. Somebody raise your hand and say, I'm blessed.